Yes, that's okay.
Hello and welcome everyone for attending tonight's regular board meeting for Evergreen Public Schools. For those that would like to join us, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I wonder, do we have a scout or scouts in the audience? Yes? Okay. If so, would you be so bold to stand up and state your name and what school you attend and maybe what badge you're working on?
My name is Will Niskanen, and I'm working on my community citizenship in the community merit badge, and I am from Union High School.
Great. Yeah, great. Well, welcome to the meeting. Thank you for attending. And if you have any questions of us, please come see us or we'll seek you out after the meeting. Thanks. Next on the agenda is adopting our agenda. So I'll entertain a motion to adopt our agenda.
Move adoption of the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so our agenda has been adopted. Next is our board consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the board consent agenda.
I move to approve the board consent agenda. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the board consent agenda has been adopted. Next is the superintendent's consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the superintendent consent agenda.
I move to approve the superintendent's consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the superintendent's consent agenda has been approved. Next, we have the superintendent's report, and for that, I hand it over to you, over to Superintendent Dr. John Steach. John?
So after our second day of school, our enrollment numbers are actually up from what we had originally budgeted and projected. We've got 7 schools over 550. Pioneer is the biggest at 723. And when I was out there yesterday talking to Jenny Hayworth, she shared with me they only had 5 kids not there on the first day of school. So compared to our usual openings, attendance was very high on the first day. The official count will be on Thursday, so then we'll have a better idea of what the actual final numbers are.
This Thursday?
This Thursday.
Okay.
One thing you probably didn't really look at and notice the significance of was we had an easement granting on the consent agenda at Orchards Elementary School for utilities. That is the final hurdle for us to get our final occupancy permit for Orchards Elementary School. We have had a temporary occupancy permit since 2004 because of our inability to get that road through. So we finally were able to work through that through some legal issues about a year ago. We're able to get the road put in place, and with this easement, hopefully within the next, how long?
1 week.
1 week. Within a week, we will actually have permanent occupancy for Orchards Elementary School. Talking about some of the bond projects we've got going on, the architects are still working on the prototypical elementary school. We're almost done with the schematics design for that. We're continuing work on the ASC Legacy 49th Street Transition Campus up there right across from Winco next to DSHS. And just to give you a very brief summary, the summer projects that we had that were funded out of the bond this summer accounted for $9 million that we invested into our facilities. They included roofing, HVAC controls, exterior painting, parking lot improvements. We put in a new IT data closet to upgrade our network infrastructure. We put in the new phone system infrastructure, so the phone system will be following to finally take care of some of the issues we have on that phone system. And then also purchased musical instruments and some furniture pilots. So that's all I've got for today.
Okay, thanks, John. Next on our agenda, let's see, matters reserved for board action. And we have one item under this category, which is ratification of the collective bargaining agreement between Evergreen Public Schools and the Evergreen Education Association. And so for a description of this, I hand it back to you, John.
Okay. And I'm pleased to put before the board tonight the ratification of a 2-year contract with the Evergreen Education Association. This agreement and salary schedule will keep Evergreen teachers the highest paid in the region and is within the final parameters that you as a board and I have discussed throughout this process. The first year of the contract for 18-19, it provides a salary range from $59,619 to $98,279 for the most senior certificated staff. And then the following year, the range will move to $53,474 and $100,618. So certificated staff under this contract will work 180-day school year plus 5 additional professional development days. And along with the adoption of the CBA, there is a new school calendar that keeps the last day of school on June 13th, as well as does not move high school graduation dates, which was very important to all of us. It does shorten the Thanksgiving and Christmas, New Year's breaks, and also uses our semester day and mid-year snow day as makeup days. So by the end of March, we should be caught up on all of our days, so it wouldn't impact AP testing either. So I would also like to recognize the long hours and dedication of Mike Molino and Janae Gomes in making this agreement happen, and the hard work of both bargaining teams in reaching a mutually beneficial agreement. So with that, I recommend ratification of the contract.
Okay, thank you, John. And as you mentioned, we have had a bargaining process that we had full faith in the bargaining teams to be able to come to an agreement. And this is the agreement that we're talking about tonight, right? And in terms of approving it as well as revising the calendar. So next, I'd like to open it up to the audience to see if you have any comments. And if you do, please come forward to the podium, state your name and address. So anyone in the audience that would like to make any comments about this contract agreement? Hi.
All
Say your
right.
name and address.
I don't know which one of these talking to. Margaret Milam, 12711 Northeast 13th Circle. So I'd like to just share a 3-minute reflection with you regarding the bargaining process we just went through. I actually voted against the strike, but I'm not the type of person who takes my ball and goes home when things do not go my way. So I checked with my school's picket captain and head rep to see if I could participate without walking the line. They said I could staff the table and answer parents' questions. So for the past 2 weeks, I've been at my school every day doing that. However, I found that most of the people who came to ask me questions were actually teachers. They wanted information, data, and numbers to better understand the big picture. So during this process, I had an aha moment, and that was that this bargain was actually a STEM task, just like the ones we present to our students. For those who don't know, a STEM task is an open-ended problem with constraints presented to teams of students. And generally, the students become very passionate about their solutions, and teachers use this context to teach skills such as civil discourse, communication, and collaboration. In this grown-up version of the STEM task known as the bargain, we had an open-ended problem, that is, how to get Evergreen teachers competitive pay, given that momentum and community support were at an all-time high. We also had a set of constraints, current and future budgets, and we definitely had passionate disagreement about what the solution should look like. In other words, we had a golden opportunity to show our students and our community what a STEM task process should look like, and we kind of blew it. In my mind, this experience prompted the question, do we really believe what we're teaching in our classrooms? So my intention here is not to blame or judge, but simply to prompt some reflection about the way our bargaining system is structured. And then I have a question moving forward. We're now in a situation where I think relationships have been strained or broken between district leadership and union leadership. But guess what? We have a process for that in our classrooms also. It's called restorative practices. So I'm going to ask again, do we believe what we're teaching in our classrooms? And if so, I'm hoping that at some point this year, both sides might engage in a restorative process. So with that hope in mind, I'd like to start the healing process a little bit here tonight, because I know the immune systems of both bargaining teams were greatly impacted by the emotional stress and lack of sleep over the past few weeks. So during the recess, I'm going to be giving Superintendent Steach and EEA President Bevel a set of gift cards from Nectar Juice Bar for their bargaining team members so they can get some good fruit smoothies to begin the healing process at a physical level at the very least. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
That's awesome, Margaret, thank you.
So, Representative Paul Harris from the 17th District. I want to thank the board members and Superintendent Steach for I guess taking off what was just said, rather difficult cycle. Some of your businesses were picketed. Some of your businesses were entered into. This has been an interesting phenomenon. I sat on the task force of 8 for the McCleary decision, and I was going to get off education after this. I thought maybe my work was not rewarded, but I've actually decided I will double down on that now, and I will even become more involved. I really believe that the process is flawed at times. I believe that the teachers were unified, but my neighborhood, I live literally next door to Riverview Elementary. My house backs up to Riverview. I heard from many neighbors, an air traffic controller that works at night, a gentleman that works graveyard, works for a, I guess you would call it, he stocks shells and whatnot. And the trumpet blowing, the screaming, the yelling that went on in neighborhoods, I don't think was behooving to many people in the neighborhoods. It did not endear them to our education process. I have concerns with that. I have concerns that your businesses were entered into. The only time that I've ever felt disgraced as a state representative when I attended an event one time where my picture was put up with a bullseye, and it happened to be at a WEA event. Never before in my life have I ever felt threatened before. But when I entered a room at Columbia River High School with my picture with a bullseye, I was offended and appalled. I appreciate the work that you've gone through. I think we have a contract that treats teachers fairly, which I think is what all of us want. I never wanted our teachers not compensated properly. So I appreciate the hard work that you've done, and I really do. I hope I can reach out to you in the interim, and as we go back into legislation, there's still work that needs to be done. There's work that needs to be done in transportation. There's work that needs to be done on special education. There's a variety of work that still needs to be done. The McCleary decision is a lawsuit and is a case, and that has been resolved. But education will never be done. We'll never be fully funding education. We'll be working on that for years, and I just appreciate the work that you do. I remember sitting with Victoria here years ago and appreciate this work. It is difficult work, truly unfunded for you, and I just want you to know how much I appreciate the difficult work that you've done, and so appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Any other comments from the audience? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a motion from the board to approve the contract and revised calendar.
I move that this board approve the contract and the revised calendar as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Now I'll open it up to the board for discussions. Any comments or questions?
I just want to say a couple things. First, I want to thank the people who spoke today. It was a difficult process. I think that during this, I think when you reflect back on things that happened, we all can learn a great deal. And when you learn a great deal, I think that it prepares you for maybe in the future proceedings and how you can act and react to things. I I think that, myself and this board has always valued our teachers and have always wanted our teachers to have the best contract possible in our district. And I think that was never a question. And I also think that because I talked to many, many, many people over the last several weeks, I talked to teachers, I talked to parents, I talked to taxpayers, I talked to neighbors, I talked to students. And all of the reoccurring theme, because something that I've been worried about, and I think everybody on this board and Dr. Steach has been worried about, is those relationships and making sure that once it's over, we can move forward. And I told every person that I talked to that I'm confident that we can repair relationships, we can move forward. We have a common goal, and that's our students, that's the community. We want to do what's best for our kids. And I know that together, we're going to work hard and we're going to build our schools to be the greatest that they are in Evergreen, and I'm confident that we can repair relationships and keep moving forward.
Thanks, Julie. Any other comments or questions from the board?
No. Yes.
Oh,
Please, go ahead.
I would like to take the time to thank John for his leadership in this. Many people don't understand what the bargaining process looks like and when it comes to mediation, what that looks like. And so, I feel like that confusion created a perception that he wasn't present through this. He was always present through this and in touch with us, and I just really want him to have that credit for the work that he did on this, because this is a very good contract, and I think all of us should be proud about the contract, and his leadership is what helped get us there. And then I also want to thank Janae and Mike. They're not here. They're probably, are they there? Oh,
They're there.
They're hiding
They're behind the heads.
There they are.
I was thinking you probably are taking a nap because you deserve one. But they were ever present. They're following the directions of the mediator and doing everything they could to move this forward, and their creative thinking was really helpful in this process. Matt and others that talked to parents and community members that were asking questions and coming in. And Elizabeth, who took a lot of calls and forwarded a lot of emails to the board that we all took the time to read and when we could, answer as many as we could. There was a lot happening over the last few weeks, and it took a team from both sides to make this happen. And so I really appreciate the hard work and the tireless nights that we all had to see this thing through. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thanks, Vic.
Appreciate it. As I've gone over the contract and seen the actual details and so forth, even from the summary, the actual contract clarifies some of the questions that I had about a couple of those elements, and actually softened some of the things that I thought would be a problem. And it is a real testament to the people who crafted this agreement, Mike, Janae, Bill, the others, that it looks as good as it does. And that it looks like a compromise between the beginning, the opening proposals and the district's limitations and constraints around our budget situation, and the bracketing that the board did to make sure that we were fiscally sustainable, responsible with the funds, and honorable towards the other collective bargaining agreements that the district has. I think of this as an agreement. Agreed means agreed. It doesn't mean agreed with a grudge. It means we move forward. Settled means settled. It means we can be at peace. So I support this outcome, no matter what my opinions might have been about the process. I took some time to talk to, I was visiting Shahela today, because one of the relationships that was damaged during the strike was a relationship between me and one of the teachers there that goes back for 15 years and involves my friends or my daughters and his daughters, and how they were always friends growing up at church and at school, and it was important to me to go in and talk to him and make sure that we were okay. And in the process, I learned a couple of things about Shehela's teachers on the line, if you will. Mary Kirby is an employee who works, I think it's Sunnyside at Kaiser or something like that. She and I spoke on the phone. She was the woman whose car broke down in the intersection right across the street from Shehela. And they documented that on one of the teachers' pages, and I think EEA also documented that there were teachers there who raced to her rescue. They figured out how to get her car going again and get it pushed out of the way, and she is going to be forever grateful for that moment and those people who were ready to help. Greg Brown, the principal at Shehela, and I discussed things that happened during their picketing, and what it turned out was that they were planning lessons too. They were thinking about their kids. I have at least 3 instances where a parent has told me that a teacher contacted them during the strike through the district's electronic systems in order to get to know the kids better. So it's a very good thing that we didn't lock that out, because they were using that to establish and maintain relationships with kids. They kept being teachers, even when they were out off the job protesting the lack of a settlement. So a couple of written welcomes, and I understand that the teachers are also taking up a collection to help classified employees and other employees who missed hours, so that they can soften the blow that came to them through that. It's still going to be a while before we're entirely healed. I'm told that this is a process that's going to take some years, but I want to be a part of that process. One of the teachers after the ratification meeting actually called me on the phone in tears, grateful that she was going to be able to be back in her classroom. And they are universally overjoyed, as near as I can tell, to be back in their classrooms and doing their jobs. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. I'd like to add that the thanks to the bargaining teams, because it was a challenging, difficult process, and just want to thank the people involved to be able to come to this agreement. The teachers in our district are outstanding, and they do amazing things for our students. And all along, we wanted to value the teachers in whatever agreement that came forward. And I think this agreement reflects that. And just to echo what's been said here, is we really look forward to coming together again as a community, because we want to continue to do what's best for kids. So I'm glad we've reached to this point. Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I guess we'll take a vote. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the contract and revised calendar as presented. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. So the contract and revised calendar has been approved. Thank you. Let's see. So next is monitoring district operations. And we're talking about operational expectations OE2, which is the emergency superintendent succession, the monitoring report. And we talked about this at a workshop previously, and now we're bringing this forward for a first reading. So for a description of this, I hand it over to you, Superintendent Steach.
So OE2 states, the board policy states that you want me to have a delegation of authority in case I'm unavailable or anything were to happen to me for continuation in district operations. So again, this year I've identified Mike Merlino, made sure Mike has read through all the OE policies and that he's aware of it, whether he wants it or not right now. In compliance with your expectations on OE2, at this time I recommend the board accept monitoring report OE2 for first reading and move it forward for second reading and final approval.
Okay, thanks, John. Any comments or questions from the audience about the first reading of this policy? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a motion from the board.
I recommend the board accept the monitoring reports for OA2 emergency superintendent succession as presented for first reading and moving forward for second reading and approval.
Second.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
It's been moved and seconded, so I'll open up to the board. Any comments or questions about this monitoring report?
It's the one report that you hope never has to be put into play, I guess, because then we'd have Mike.
Whoa.
No, Mike hopes it doesn't happen.
Well, even if I'm on travel somewhere and I'm unavailable and something does happen and
Yeah.
we need some kind of an emergency response, at least that way the board knows who is actually the person that would make those
That's right.
decisions.
And it's important for us to always know who's going to be in charge of the district, should there be any kind of an emergency. So I appreciate that you put a good man in charge if we need him.
I have full faith.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, let's see. So now we'll take a vote to approve the first reading of OE2 as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the first reading has been approved and we'll bring it back for a second reading at our next board meeting on September 25th.
I would want to note that originally we had on the agenda OE5 for first reading, which is the financial preparation, but based on the newly adopted contract, we're going to take that back, do some revisions on the sections that are appropriate, and then we'll bring that back for workshop at the next meeting for you to be able to take a look at.
Okay, thanks, John. Next on our agenda are board comments. Do we have any?
Just looking forward to getting out into some schools, enjoying the first days. I wasn't able to get out yesterday, so I'm hoping to get into some schools later this week or next week.
Awesome. Any other comments?
Just love seeing all the first day of school photos and all the great things that are going on in our schools. It's always one of my favorite times of year to see the differences over the years with the kids and all the great things that all of our teachers and educators have put together over the summer to greet their students on the first day of school. So a little late, but we got there.
Yeah.
Dude, when I was at Shayla today, they were passing out Chromebooks with an efficiency I could not have matched. It was pretty impressive to see. And I think it's worth saying that there's a little bit of irony. I was appointed by WASDA to the state's online learning advisory board. It's not a paid position or anything, but it's their one representative there. And the meeting is in October in Federal Way at the WEA state headquarters. So looking forward to seeing if there are any pictures of anybody there on the wall. But I think it'll be a good experience.
Great. Any other comments? I guess the Legislative Assembly for WASDA is coming up this weekend, right?
Next weekend,
Oh,
the
okay.
weekend after next, yeah.
Oh, okay. And Julie's
I
attending?
am attending
And Rob as well.
Yeah, I'll be there in the role on the legislative committee.
for WASDA.
You'll be our voting member.
Okay, great. Next is future agenda items. Do we have any to bring up?
I think we have a pretty packed schedule.
Right. Okay, thanks. Next is citizens' comments. So this is where any of you in the audience can address the board for 3 minutes on any subject as long as it doesn't pertain to personnel or legal matters. And because it wouldn't be part of an agenda item, the board would not be able to comment, but we can ask clarifying questions. Is there anyone signed up for citizens' comments? Or would like to address the board? Seeing none? Okay. So now we will go into recess to sign some papers. After the recess, we will have a board workshop where we will be talking about health clinics in the high schools. We'll have a board meeting debrief. We'll have a WASDA legislative legislative agenda update as well as the superintendent's update. So we are now in recess. Thank you for attending.